Why don't we get started then? You can still hear me?
Mhm.
There we go. Okay, first off, I'm Mike Gillette. I'm the person that will be the principal working on the recruitment for the next town manager here in Simsbury. I am a person that spent my entire career in the local government. I started with Boston Assessing Department. I got out of graduate school. I spent 2.5 years there managing a department of the information system division. And then I went into municipal management. I did 2.5 years in a town called Bellingham, Massachusetts. And then finally I went to Westwood, Massachusetts. Town not dissimilar to this community, smaller, but very, very similar to this community. Suburb of Boston. I spent 32 years there. 3.5 years ago I retired. I named the co-owner of this company, HR, when she was working in Massachusetts, and so I hooked up with the company. It's a national firm. We do recruitments all over the United States. We've not been to Hawaii yet, but we're just trying to get there. We have done as far as Alaska. We have recruited executive recruitments in 43 of the states. We also do municipal, different municipal consulting, compensation, and organizational studies. Whatever needs to be done, we have somebody on staff who do it. And then there are people like me who are contracted through them to do. So I kind of represent the area for. So I've done work in Maine, I've done work in Vermont, I've done work in Massachusetts, so I will be here for the entire duration of this project. And if we could, I'd like to know who's in the room. You don't have to tell me who you are if you don't feel comfortable with that. But if you do, say your name and why you're here, what brings you here to participate in the program. It certainly helps me have an understanding of what you might want to hear from me.
My name is Susan. I live in Terriffill, which would make sense to people here. It's a very specific part of town. We have very specific attachments to our part of town. I've lived there since 1996. I guess I came just for a couple of reasons. I felt like it was important to be part of the process. I also, and I don't even know if this is part of the process, we've had a town manager for 5 years, 6 years. And I still am a little uneasy about the job itself and what the town manager does, the board of selectmen and the zoning commissions, planning commissions. I just kind of hazy about that. And thought maybe I'd get some clarity by being here.
I'm Charmaine Seavey. We live on Quarry Road. We've been there for 38 years as of July 1st, so my kids went through K through 12. And I also serve on the Simsbury Democratic Town Committee. I'm the communication chair there. And I just want to know more about how the process works and when we find a new town manager.
Hi, Elaine Giannini. I live at Pine Hill Condominiums in Simsbury, and I'm just here to listen and get a better understanding of the process as well.
Hi, I'm Eric Wellman. I serve on the Board of Selectmen, and I'm just here to listen because hiring a town manager is the most important thing that we do as a board. It's really important to us to know what our community wants in this role.
Kevin Beal, live on the north end of town, almost in Granby, and I'm interested in hearing what others' reactions and thoughts are on this. And I shared your sort of questions. Sometimes government can seem sort of mysterious. So in a lot of ways, I like it when government works well, when we notice it the least. Sometimes, unfortunately, in the last couple of years, we've noticed some things and some issues on relationships and that, and the board, and I'd love to see that improved, as well. Policy governance perspective as opposed to some of the political nature that we've seen. So those are my thoughts. But thank you.
I'm Jane Hanna, and I've lived in town almost all my life. So, like Suzanne, our town manager is a new thing to me. I realize we've had one recently, but I guess I too would like to know a little bit more about the job and how we go about finding someone that's going to fill those shoes.
I'm Nikki Cox. I've lived in Simsbury for 12 years. Was in a house, taxes went up, so I'm now in an apartment. I'm here just to follow the process. When Maria was hired, I didn't understand the role of the manager as to the selectmen. We still have the first selectman. I don't understand where the boundaries go and who really says what happens in the town, and I also don't want taxes to go up anymore. But I know Bloomfield's looking for a new town manager, as is Granby, and then there's a meeting this past week, many of you probably read in the Hartford Current. And I know Bristol and Farmington's town managers there, I think 8 others, and they are both primarily, these towns, relying on residential taxes to support the expenses, and it's not working out. They have no commercial growth or opportunities there. So I want to know, with the new town manager coming in, how the balance is going to be and the role that person specifically plays so people don't cross the divide, and that. But I just want it to be an open process this time. It certainly wasn't 5 years ago when Maria came in. Thank you. Next.
Steve Good from the Hearst Media, here to cover this event.
Elizabeth Peterson, I live walking distance. Came for a couple reasons. I know a lot of people actually complained about the last town manager. And I think if you're going to complain, you should be part of the process. Not that I was on the that way, but I wanted to come and at least say, hey, I was part of the process to find out a little bit more about it. Also, I think it's important people who have younger kids in town come to these meetings, they never do. And it's tough, I think. They tend to be older community members, no offense. So I try to represent that one too. And also, people have to say.
My name's May. I'm a rising senior here at Simsbury High, and I'm also the student representative to the DEI Council of Simsbury. And I honestly assumed that more people from the council would be here with me, but I guess I'm here by myself. So, anyways, but honestly, I didn't really put much thought into like town manager and the government here. And honestly, I think this is a good opportunity to kind of learn more about how my town works before I go off to college.
I'm sorry, I just walked in late. I'm Lydia Tadone. I live in Lake Lane in Utah. I've been a 35-year resident of Simsbury. I'm on the City Board of Education, if you remember. And I'm here because I got the invite to come for the process, the search process, so it's never too early to find out what residents are interested in the next town manager in form of government. So that is why I'm here to also add my views and some positive input into where we're going from here until the next town manager is installed.
I'm Tara Willerup. I also am on the Board of Education. I am a lifelong member of Simsbury, and I have had many involvements much involvement in government processes, and I look forward to participating in this one as well. I think it's important that everyone who lives in town and cares about this town is part of the conversation to find what we need going forward.
I'm Melissa Brett, long-term resident of Simsbury Road, right in the center of town. I also own a business. I own a commercial mixed-use property in town. I've had a lot of interaction with the prior town manager. Was even part of the original search process when we had that as a brand new position as the form of government. I think it's really important that more members are being made aware of, members of our community are made aware of these meetings. I know it's really tough being a holiday weekend starting up for this to kick off tonight, but I hope there'll be more of community involvement, interaction, maybe even just if they can fill out surveys. We need their voices to be heard, because there are some things that were broken and they need to get fixed.
Lord Christensen, in lifelong resident, actually family's going on 6 generations in town. Ditto to everything everybody has said. Can't complain about the process if you don't get involved in it. A little disappointed to see a whopping dozen and a half people here tonight. Hoping that we can do a good job of picking whoever's going to run our town going forward.
So, thank you all for showing up. It is a warm night, and it's just before a holiday weekend, but we're trying to keep the process moving, so this was the opportunity that presented itself.
Is the microphone available?
Yeah, could
It
you
is,
speak up a
if you
little?
want, I can project.
Yeah, it's like the refrigerator's buzzing.
It's hard to hear.
You might have to turn it off to turn it on.
It's on. You don't have to do anything. So, again, I'll just repeat, thanks for coming. This is an opportunity for you, as being present here today, to give us your feedback as to, or input as to what next town manager should look like, what qualities they should have. The purpose of the meeting is not really to explain the position, but I will do just a little bit of that, because that question was asked. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, I can't remember the exact date, the town made a charter revision, and the charter revision was to create the position of a town manager. The town manager works under the direction of the Board of Selectmen, and is the person that is the chief executive officer overseeing the day-to-day operation of the community. So all of the department heads on the municipal side of government work through the town manager. The Board of Selectmen's role is the policy role. They don't manage day-to-day operations. They basically set the policy and make the important decisions for the community after being presented with information from the department heads through the town manager for running the affairs over time. So that's just kind of a brief summary of what the position is. And this will be the second town manager that we hire. So it's oftentimes, I would say, challenging to go from one form of government to another. And so over time, those things smooth out, you get used to it, and whatever seems to be not working eventually gets corrected. So I think this is just a process that the community is going through. I served my first job as the first town administrator in the community, so I speak from some knowledge about how that can work. And it's not smooth. Just the way it is. I've given you all an agenda. Now, on the agenda is a survey. I think we distributed a survey in the community, but this is a link to the survey. And those of you who have a phone with a camera, you just simply put the camera on, hold it above it, it'll come and tell you to press on my phone. It's a yellow button, and there's a square. When that's focused, press that yellow button and it'll come up with the survey. So if you haven't filled out the survey, please do. I will be using that as well as this input to form, to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with a summary of the process, so you all know how it's going to work. So this meeting, interviews with the select board, interviews with the department heads I held this afternoon, the surveys that I've distributed to all those groups, including the community and boards and commission members, All that information will then be used, but I will use that information to develop two documents. First document is position announcement. The position announcement lays out, it's almost like a job description, but a little bit more, lays out the responsibilities of the position, what the town is looking for, and some details like what is the salary and that sort of thing, who's going to do the hiring. And so on. The other document that I'll be preparing the text for is what is called a brochure. Brochure is a little bit more expansive. It highlights, in addition to that information that's on the position announcement, issues and opportunities in the community. It's meant to encourage candidates. It's sort of a promotional document. Encourage candidates that meet the qualifications that are being looked for and that want to take on the issues and are looking forward to the opportunities that are highlighted in that brochure. We want to make an application. And then I use that, and our team back in Illinois used that to get information out to potential candidates. So when I find out that there's somebody of interest, we'll send them a copy of that document, have a conversation with them. I use it extensively in all my emails to try and encourage people to come. So that's the first part, and that's going to be the next couple of weeks. We will accomplish that. Then the position will be announced. Once the announcement is made, there's a month period of time waiting for applicants to submit applications. And that's the time period I'll be out trying to recruit candidates to the position. And somewhere around mid to the end of August, in that last couple of weeks of August, we'll establish a deadline for the applications to be received. Once the deadline is received or reached, I will then take all the resumes, I will go through them, I will identify those individuals I think are qualified for the position. I will then set up a Zoom interview with them and have a conversation with them about their candidacy. That conversation is meant for me to be able to judge whether or not I feel that they've represented themselves correctly on the resume, and whether or not I think by their answers that they would be a good fit for this community from what I know of this community. I will then prepare a report. The company prepares a report to this, in this case, the Board of Selectmen, with the candidates that I've identified. We give the names for all the candidates that we have received, but I give the board specifically more information on the candidates I've selected to be interviewed by me. I go through it. I usually tier the candidates into 3 tiers. Tier 1 are the candidates I find very qualified, a good match for the community, and it's my recommendation that those are the candidates that they focus on and interview. Tier 2 are people that are qualified, but for one reason or another, I wasn't impressed, or for some reason I didn't think that they belong in tier 1. And then there's tier 3, which, after having a conversation with them, I just don't think that would be a good fit. But I give all that information out to the search committee, in this case, the Board of Selectmen, and then that information, from that, they will select, this board will select, say, 6 candidates, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but usually somewhere around 6 candidates to interview as a preliminary interview. That interview will be conducted, and then the select board will select probably 3 candidates that they think are the most qualified out of that group. And that group will come back, we call back in those 3 candidates for a more intensive 2-day interview process. The interview process will include interviews by the staff, department heads of the community, a reception for the community where the candidates will be present, they will give a little presentation on a topic that's prearranged, and they're meant to mingle with everyone. At the end of that reception, I will do what I did here. I will give you a QR code. Anyone in attendance that wants to will then click on the QR code and be able to fill out a questionnaire on each of the candidates, what you thought of them, on your one-on-one discussion, what you thought of their presentation, what you thought of their demeanor, those sorts of things. Next, and the third thing in that process is a tour of the community. One of the things that's happening here is that we're trying to figure out who we want to serve in the community, but they're looking at the community and determining whether or not they want to come to this community. So we give them a tour, we encourage, show them things in the community that sell them on the community and the different projects that are going on, that sort of thing, the amenities. And then the last thing that is done is an interview by the Board of Selectmen. There's a final interview. At the end of the interviews with the three candidates, I'm going to just stick with three, the board will have a discussion about what their thoughts are. So in a sense, they're informing each other about what each other saw in each of the candidates. Nobody sees every candidate from all angles. That's the best way to get the angles out. After that initial discussion, I will present them with the results of the survey. I'll give them a QR code to go in and be able to read through the results of the survey from the reception. I will also give them a written summary of what the department had said about each of the candidates as a result of their review. And then the board will then proceed into further discussion, and in every case, it's always worked this way, come to a final conclusion. Now, it doesn't always end up in hiring. I got two in the first go round, but usually it ends in hiring one of the three candidates. At least a majority of architects are trying to get consensus of all the members of the board on one candidate. We all agree that's the fit of this. So that's the process. And right now, the schedule that we're working off of, we have that process, the interviews, sometime in late December, early October.
To hire by then, is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, because the interim is gone by then, right?
Well, I don't know what the arrangements are with the interim. I
6
think-
months. He's here for 6 months.
Oh, 6
Starting
months.
June 1st.
Yeah, so that's end of December.
So it'll be right, yeah, because it takes usually a month for the person that you hire, unless they're not employed at that moment, to be able to leave. A month and a half. So any questions about the process we'll be following? Okay. So I got a few questions, and I'm glad you're taking this because I want to listen and take notes. I'd like to just have a discussion. I've got some prepared topics I'd like to talk to you about. And the first one is, what is it about Simsbury that you as residents find most appealing in this community? What would you tell a potential candidate about this community that's most appealing that would invite them to file an application? Anyone?
I'll start. Kevin Beal again. So we're in one of the reasons why it's a great community to live in. The schools here, the high school in particular, but our other schools, access to opportunity for raising a family is absolutely excellent here. The beautiful environment that we live in, it's proximate to the major business hubs you want to be in Boston and Hartford and New York. Simsbury's got it all. So I think that investing in our families and in the schools here is one of the top reasons why families come and families stay.
This is also a really, really beautiful, polished area.
we have 30% of open space. No other town has that, like Simsbury does. We also have a multi-use trail that people, can take. It's also a thoroughfare for people that can come down from New Haven all the way to Massachusetts. People take advantage of that. That's a real big, issue, and people are using it more and more, especially families. It's, it's just a wonderful community, and I think, if they, at the reception, whenever they talk to the residents, they can see the people who live in this town love this town. And I don't honestly see that in other communities in the area, but I do know that Simsbury, we do love this community.
Anyone else? And when you're speaking, speak as loudly as possible, so that the camera can pick it up. You did, it's not a criticism, I just want to remind people to speak loudly.
As an older person, I have to say the library. This town has one of the best libraries, and I'm talking about living in much bigger communities than Simsbury. And just the services they provide, and if you don't provide it, you ask, and they'll find a way to get it to you. So I think that's one, not just the books, the computers, the programs offered for everybody, but it just is one of the foremost features of this town.
I would say the school systems, my kids went through K through 12 here, and the education that they received prepared them easily for college. And in fact, when my daughter was in her college that she went to, she was tutoring kids that went to very expensive private schools that weren't as well prepared for college life and college level work. So the schools here, I think that keeps the property values high also, which is a good thing if you ever want to sell. And but the education, if you do have children, is as good as going to private schools or even better.
Well, ditto, just so you know, everything about anything outdoors and the library. I guess I want to just highlight another outdoor space. We have the Farmington River that goes all the way through our town, and in many ways it just defines a lot of the outdoor environment in the town and a lot of all kinds of things about our town. And it's also an incredible environmental resource that needs to be protected. And I was going to say the history too. We're in a little town, and we have history that goes way back. It's just fascinating, and there's historical pockets all over town.
Anyone else?
I think a couple things. Having kids again growing up through here, but we have a phenomenal Parks and Rec program, which is under the town management process that I know will be going forward. I think there's been a lot of underutilized programs that I think can be used more by town residents, that with the right promotion without causing more money and expenses with people's taxes, and have to over that one, that they can be made well known, that there are some phenomenal, I mean, if anyone's been to Simsbury Farms, if they've been to Rotary Park, if they've been to the dog park, if they've been to Curtis Park, any of these parks that we have in this town, besides all of our open spaces, is making what the family-friendly environment that I believe we all come to love about this town, because it is a family-friendly environment. From the farms that we have here to, again, being small business focused, a lot of our small independently owned businesses where you know not just the manager but the owners and how your kids and how you're growing them, and that personal relationship that you have that you don't get in many towns. There's not a lot of big corporately owned businesses where you just walk in and you say, hey, how's the day going? Oh, I heard about your son, about their soccer game, etc. You get to know people that you're doing business with, that you get to volunteer with, and all the different organizations that are in this town. And this people in this town is what made this so great, is because they really care about to keep the environment that people come to love and want to move in here too.
Anything else?
I think we're very fortunate in this town to have people we have volunteering for our boards and commissions. I think we have a really smart town. I think we have people who care, and they are willing to give their time back to the town because they know how much they get from the town, and they appreciate it. Along with what everyone else said.
Yeah, everybody's highlighting something new. I mean, you probably would repeat other people's comments as well. Yes. Anyone else? Okay, next issue that I'd like to hear your thoughts on was describe the perfect town manager. Not gonna happen, by the way, but describe what would be the perfect town manager. They'll have some of the traits that you're gonna highlight here, but they might be missing. So, go
I
ahead.
guess I would hope that the town manager that ends up having the job comes from an area, or at least really understands an area like Simsbury, so that that person can relate to who we are and what we generally hope for the future.
Anyone else?
I would just echo some of what was just said. I think the town manager needs to take the time at the beginning of their tenure to get a feel, to get to know the town and how the town functions, particularly since we have a town that has a lot of volunteer commissions and committees. And so it's up to I think the town manager needs to know how that fits into the governing of the town.
I think I would add to that, just saying, I think there needs to be respect for our town and the community that it is. I'd like them, and appreciate what Simsbury is when they get here. And
Not try to change it.
well, yeah,
Well, I'd add to that because you understand the job, people are often on a career trajectory, so they want to build up their resume and maybe have some feathers put in their cap, which I respect. But I think it's sometimes they do that at the expense of the place they are. And I think there needs to be a way to have a balance where we understand that's normal, at the same time they're not trying to fit an agenda that's theirs, or the ideological agenda that's theirs, it just isn't matching with what the town, because they come and go and the rest of us are maybe still here.
Couple of things. This town is what it is because of the way it's been run up over the last couple hundred years. The open space, the thought to hang on to that, or to farms instead of letting that become an X subdivision, the town bought that up, along with several other pieces of property since in the last 20 or 30 years, with development rights. So we've gotten where we are because of the way we operate. I don't think anybody wants to change the overall direction the town has taken, and I think the new town manager needs to be aware of that, tweak it, guide it, keep it between the lines, whatever. Needs to be experienced and know what the town's looking
Well, since they're managing people in the day-to-day, this town manager needs to have one, I believe, experience of managing a town. We're still new in this. Like you said, this is our second town manager. We have a lot of growing pains to do. I do not think we should have someone who's never been a town manager before, not even an assistant. They need to have been a town manager before. Their experience is what helps them be, I think, a little more flexible versus trying to impress. And they need to know how to manage people, not just how to manage processes. There's a lot of managers out there, but need somebody who can manage people properly. We've lost some good ones over the past few years, and we need to make sure we don't lose any more. And it's all the town manager's direction. It's the way they set the tone day one that that person's here. So they have an open door policy, not just for their staff, but for any staff, as well as for the public. And I know with COVID and there's all sorts of other issues, they couldn't do open door policy. But I think it's very important that this person does have an open door policy.
I would say to tag on to that, I would hope that they would be politically as bipartisan as they possibly could be. We have bipartisan, I'm with the Simsbury Democratic Town Committee, but I would want someone who is fair to both sides and take a bipartisan approach to what's going on, not one side or the other. Because we have residents here that are, all kinds of political beliefs, religious beliefs, and everything else. And I want someone who is, open to all and respectful of all, and not one-sided in one way.
Yes.
I just would like to amend that bipartisan to nonpartisan.
Okay, say nonpartisan, but whatever, yeah.
Somebody says that political position is not of the most significant, they're nonpartisan.
I think everything listed is extremely important to this town, and as I say, I haven't lived here a long time, but it's the one thing I admire about the closeness of the people, respecting the community and the environment they live in. But I certainly hope this perfect town manager has some knowledge of finances, because it's at this point in all of our careers, we have for someone to get in there and understand the budget and the process of how we do the budget in this town. Because I myself, during the last budget, I followed proceedings and looked and never found an accurate itemized account under some particularly public works as to how funds were allocated. They were lumped together instead of individually broken down. So I know, this person should have an understanding about finances.
And gather from what you said and communicate that so you can read it.
Yes.
I think too that because we did have such a drastic change in our government, going from first selectman that we really could be more personal. Could you speak up, please? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I don't have a loud voice. So, sorry, this is as loud as it gets, so I'll stand up. Thank you. So, yeah, I don't have a loud voice.
Go to the mic.
Yeah.
Go to the mic.
Put the pressure on. People who know me, I have a voice problem. So I think that when we switched our town governments, that was very difficult for people because having first select people, it was very easy for us to become friendly with them and to know them and to go to different things with them and say hi to them on the streets. They were a little more active. The town manager is more of an administrative position. I think has to understand that too, that there are people that want to reach out because that's what we're used to doing, and that it has to be somebody who really cares. This is not just a job for her, but it's caring for somebody. It's caring for a town of people who really love this town, as you have heard everybody express. So I think that transition has really been hard, and yes, what she said that, COVID came in, as we all know, the first year is hard for people just to get their head above water, and then COVID hit, so, she had a double whammy there. And nobody explained to her, we don't know what happened, it was a short term. So I also agree with this lady here that we need somebody who is experienced, not somebody who is an assistant town manager. I think that makes a big difference.
But I think the thing here that you're hearing from people is that we really want somebody who cares about the town, that this is not just a job.
So I got from that, somebody that's approachable and caring.
Thank you.
What else?
So I'll jump in and not to disagree with anything that's been said about the need to care and know the community and all that. That will come with time once they assume the role and they learn to love the place and build the relationships. And I think that effort needs to be there. Coming into the job day one or day zero when the offer is made, I would want and expect that high level of competence that we've sort of discussed that comes through a combination of professional training, academic education and training. I'd expect a graduate degree myself in public administration or related fields so they understand the complex issues dealing with the town. We have very large budgets. We have large increases in expenditures. We have a lot of difficult decisions to be made ahead of us. And the board, our elected leaders, are the responsible parties for a lot of the things that we've discussed here and being our voice. And the hired manager has the job and the role of advising them and our elected leaders, and they share that perspective and position, and they come together on a decision that's best for the outcome of the town. So I would expect our elected leaders, and so when we talk with them, we should communicate these to provide clear direction to our hired administrators, and for that administrator to be professionally competent in their area and be able to best advise them. So that's what I would hope of this professional manager. They can learn to love the community, but I want them to come here as a professional when they arrive.
What would you say are the major opportunities that the next town manager will find when they come to Simsbury?
To live in a beautiful town, which is well-run and full of very nice people.
Can I ask, is the town manager required to live in town?
Yeah, that's a good question. Oh, not too bad.
That's correct.
Correct, yeah.
No, they don't.
They're not required.
Right, okay.
Anyone else?
These are major opportunities.
It's
very simple.
Yeah, it's not as I'm saying, and it's probably not as
Any
easy.
challenges?
I think the challenges are next, I think. Yeah, the challenges are next. Opportunities would be that they're gonna find that the buildings are in terrific shape, or that, and I'm saying this because I know you are, you're AAA bond rated community, so the finances are solid, the operation is run well. Another opportunity in this community is that you have, that the person gonna find the staff is very professional and dedicated to their job and doing a tremendous job. Those are things that make the life of the person that assumes the responsibility way better. I mean, I did it for 34 years, and the one employee that's not working out is the one that takes 90% of your time, and at times when you least can afford to be spending that time dealing with that issue, because you got a bunch of other things you gotta get done, but you gotta do that, because that staff person doesn't work. So, having great staff is really key. Being successful.
Well, I would say one of the major opportunities for the town manager is to get to know all the available resources to this person. And what I mean by that is we have a Chamber of Commerce, we have a Main Street Partnership, we have a Historical Society, we have lots of organizations that are not town, like commissions or boards, but they help support the betterment of this town. The Simsbury Land Trust, there's so many organizations. Try not to reinvent the wheel when the wheel's already been running down the road for us for a while, I guess. That would be I'm trying to give if I'm thinking properly. and to make sure they take advantage of all the resources that are available to this person. And not say, well, I'm just gonna only take one and forget the 5 others. Again, we have, like everyone would say, we have some volunteer boards from our commissions to board of directors on many different organizations that have been helping this town out for years. And to not ignore all these organizations, but to help promote a partnership with them, to help promote just a way to make this town the way we all love it and continue the way it is, and not say, well, I'm gonna do it my way or the highway, because that's gonna just butt heads. It was an opportunity.
Yeah, I think one of our challenges is our challenge always, and it's been since 100 years ago. I mean, it's always been a challenge of ours, is just economic growth and maintaining our character. And it's a balance, that everyone in town, all these people that we were talking about, volunteers, take very seriously, and they have all these side organizations to help support the town for that very reason. But I think that that's always going to be a challenge here, because we want it to be very careful, thoughtful, and responsible growth. And so that's a huge challenge that we're going to have someone to try to keep going, that our leaders previous have been doing.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it ever recommended that a town manager either live or not live in the town with our town manager?
No, it's up to the community to require or not require. I can tell you that in the current environment, requiring that a person live in the community, given housing costs, what it does is, when you do that, when you set up things like that in your requirements, you're limiting the field. There'll be X number of people that say, no, I like my community, my kids are here. Oftentimes it's the family too. The kids in high school, they want to you want an experienced manager, that person's already somewhere. Their kid may be in high school saying, I'm a junior and I want to finish. My friends are here. It's those sorts of things that get in the way. And I can tell you, I didn't live in the community I lived in. And there were some people that thought that I should. But whenever I introduce myself about that issue, I'd say, I don't sleep here, but I live here. Because the job is such, with all the night meetings and such, they're spending all their time in the community. And if you get somebody that's not just trying to put something on their resume, which is what we're going to look for. We're not looking for somebody who just wants to put a new position on the resume, but somebody that's going to want to be here because this is a community they want to serve. Then they're going to spend a lot of time. They're going to care, and it won't matter if they live there or they don't.
I thought we're still an opportunity, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think Simsbury is an interesting place, being that I've lived here like 6 years, and there are a lot of people who've always lived here. No offense, that's great. But there's an interesting dynamic of that, because you get a lot of people who tell you that's how we've always done it. And sometimes that's fine, but also sometimes, like just being on the PTOs here, I brought up like how we did it at our school in California. A lot of people are like, oh my God, that's a great idea, we should try that. And I think a lot of people are still pushed to not mention how we could do something differently. And I think if we have a good town manager who had success doing certain things in other towns, and kind of contradict myself, oh, they're going to make changes, but they may have done something that worked really well where they were, and I would like them to be able to bring that forward here and not feel like they're going to be attacked for it, if it's good. They do have the benefit of a different perspective.
Anyone else? Okay, so here it is. Here's the issues. What challenges do you think the community, that town manager is going to inherit because they're already being addressed, or challenges that you think ought to be addressed that aren't currently being addressed?
So this is also, comes back to my original question, like where is, and maybe Eric's here and he can help me with this, in terms of the board setting policy and then it being carried out. We have something that's been going on in town, it's been bubbling up, and it has to do with housing, not having enough affordable housing, but also have had this rate of growth that is extremely quick. And you know, if you surveyed all of us, we probably all had very different ideas about it. So I'm just sort of summarizing it. But we need to move forward, figuring out how to move forward, and not having so many people literally be upset about this issue. I mean, there was a meeting on Tuesday night about the plan of development, and there was a lot more people there, and most of the conversation was about housing. So that's where I don't understand. I mean, how much would a town manager have to do with figuring out how to move forward here, and how much comes from you, or where does it come
So
from?
my short answer to that question is that it's really important, if that's an issue that you care about,
Yeah.
that you have a board of selectmen, a planning commission, and a zoning commission
Right.
that is interested in that too. But it's also important that we have a town manager who can help guide a process if those boards were to initiate a process to move forward.
So, so the boards initiate the process, but you need the town manager to carry it
To
out.
provide, to certainly carry it out and to provide guidance.
So I would definitely say that a major issue is needing affordable housing, the rate of development, how to move forward, those types of things. I mean, it's very detailed, extremely detailed issue.
Pedestrian safety. I live off West Street and we have a group of the kind of what we call a commission that we ended up meeting with Chief Bolger on the money is in the budget to have pedestrian lights put on West Street, right by green lights there. I mean, people go around buses, school buses, with flashing lights to stop, and then pedestrians in the crosswalk. Yes, we all try to abide by the new rules where you step out and wave. People stop this way, but don't stop the other way. So I just think there should be where I know there've been other issues, and pedestrian spills over into bicycle safety, more respect for bicycles. I know we're trying to be a #1 town, but most of the old roads were put in place that is part of the charm of living here. Do not have room for bicycles, and they say, I think you leave 4 feet, and most of the roads, that means the car goes over the double yellow lines, which is actually breaking the law. So I just want some action done more visibly than what's being done with that. You know, and people to know there is a path where something can be done. I was not aware that the roads, so many roads are CDOT in this town, and it's the state decisions, and the only one that can address the state is the chief of police. It doesn't come down to the town manager or the board of selectmen, and that was a hierarchy most of us are not aware of. But I just want that more visible to everyone. And so I would pedestrian bicycle safety.
I have another one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many people would call this a major issue, and it's something we have worked on, and we do have people in different departments and on commissions. But we need to move faster on our change to a lower carbon system of using energy in town. And I would like to see somebody who's maybe experienced that type of thing, in terms of just town buildings and development.
If the person's not maybe from the most of Connecticut around here, I think they should be aware of our bear issue, our increasing bear issue. The bears aren't going away and they're multiplying, and if somebody comes in flat on that and it's becoming a bigger issue, that may become a really big issue, they should be prepared for the bears.
Perfect town manager should not be scared of bears.
I heard they're like squirrels.
Oh, this is the zipper.
There's a few in Massachusetts, which you might get.
Well, you're on Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
growing,
say
this
that.
is
Western
Massachusetts, growing in every state, Canada.
Anyone else?
Well, here's the thing that we're not talking about. The biggest issue is gonna be the taxes. Some of us commercial property owners have had issues and problems with things how we've been assessed. Not talking about board of selectmen because they don't have any, they don't have that direction. It was the town manager's direction of how this is happening. It was poorly done from day one. I'm not gonna go into the whole nightmare. I've already explained this so many times. But they need to be made aware of who their tax base is. Not just residential. We're all residents and a lot of us own businesses and own commercial properties. But they have to be made aware of who are the taxpayers in this town and how changes to tax bases affects everybody. How it affects residential, and as we're talking about having a financial head on their shoulders and someone that has expertise in town management and can potentially lay down the heavy when it needs to when the town staff, if that needs to be done. And again, I'm not saying we have to fire anyone or do anything, I'm not saying that. But I think there needs to be a lot more guidance and direction. When it has been kind of letting everyone on ripshot on how they think it should be done. There's not a lot of clear policies, how decisions have been made and how things have been assessed. And that affects everyone. If we have properties that are going to be gone, property owners that are going to foreclose, we're going to have people that are going to have offices for rent, and open spaces for rent, and that is called economic development, and then we need to know how that affects everything. It affects our schools, it affects open spaces, it affects everything, it affects development. There's going to be development here that may not happen because it just can't afford the property that it's assessed to. So it's a long-term issue that has to be made aware of. And that is, I call it opportunity or challenge, however you want to call it. Commercial assessments are not residential assessments, they're very different. And they will affect everyone because if someone has to raise the rent, the groceries are going up, and then the gas prices are going up because of the rents are going up. So it's going to cycle down. And a lot of residents don't realize that's going to be happening very soon.
I would add a couple of things to that. First of all, for people who own a house and you're told your taxes are going to go up by 10%, I look at that, that's not a big deal. If you own multiple properties with a fair amount of fair dollar value and you're told your taxes are going up by 10%, it's a huge number. And I asked at one of the budget meetings recently to not only just look at your budgets, figure out what you need, whether it's the schools, whether it's whatever it is. I understand things go up, but keep in mind where that money comes from. Don't kill the goose. Somebody has to be aware enough of looking at the numbers to figure out where that money is coming from. I'm not saying budget. I'm not saying things don't go up. I'm not saying they're not all valid. But just look at the whole process, not just what you're spending and how can I generate it. Look at where it comes from too. Because ultimately that affects what I have to charge for rents. It affects how full I can be, keep properties full. It goes right down the line. So they need to look at the whole picture, not just focus on one little aspect.
Anyone else? So if we're done with issues, my last question is, what else should I know about Simsbury that you haven't already covered?
I
would say one thing, and I grew up on the West Coast, which is much different than here, but we've been here for 38 years. I think a lot of people, including myself, live here because we choose to live here. And even if you're going to hit retirement age, you're still living here. I mean, it's not a community where, not that some people don't move to North Carolina or Florida or wherever, you know, a lot of people stay because they're very attached to what's here and their rec and the parks and everything else. And it's a beautiful place to be, so why would you move, you know, somewhere else, so to speak? So we're here because we want to be and choose to stay. It's not a community where everybody gets to retirement age and they all just blow out to Florida or someplace.
I had a tour of the community today by the police chief after the department was taken back by all that's here. It's an amazing community, especially your open space. Anybody else?
Go off of that. You know, I've lived here my entire life, and you know, I'm going to leave soon for college, you know, next year. And you know, like this town is my home. You know, I grew up here. Like I have all different fond memories of living here. And even when I go off to college, you know, I want to come back during like Christmas break and summertime, and I want to come back to a place that feels like home. So I think it kind of goes with like, you know, like yes, we want like positive changes and stuff in the community, but I think there also has to be a balance. Like it still has to feel like Simsbury. And you know, I know like a lot of my classmates, like this is our home, and you know, we just when we come back to it, we want, you know, it to feel still like home.
I think, sorry again, but this is easy, this is quick. I think that the people that live in this town, we feel safe. You know, yeah, crime has risen a little bit, but overall not too bad. But I think that we feel safe here. It's a safe community. And I think that's I mean, I know that's what I mean. It's like everybody else here, I love this for so many reasons. I can't imagine myself living in there. You know, so I think that's a big thing. I think we feel safe.
I think one of the other challenges that you don't see a lot of people here is, I've known with a lot of town meetings and other events and stuff, unless you're connected via social media or reading every single email you get from the town, the public needs a better way to be informed. And not everyone reads a current, not everyone's on Facebook, and not everyone, even if they get an email, can read all the thousands of emails they get every day. I don't know the magic formula of how to make sure more people in the community are made aware of these upcoming potential events, opportunities that they have to have their voices be heard. And yet, granted, a lot of people I know are going away for the holiday weekend starting today because it worked out well with their schedules and everything. But again, I run a hardware store in town. A lot of people didn't even know about tonight's meeting because they're not on Facebook. They don't get the town things. They don't read the current. You know, and I said, how else can you be heard? He's like, I don't know. Tell me how I can be heard. You know, so I think if there's a way your organization, since you're so expertise, that you can help guide our board of selectmen and other people, how to get more word out. There's going to be people who are always making their voice heard in this town. At every town meeting, they make their voice be heard. But there are thousands of people that want their voice be heard, they just don't know how. If it's a survey, if it's this, if it's whatever. I think we got to get different ways and means for more of the general public to let their voice be heard, because this is the town that we love. We want it to be managed the way that is professional and is not partisan, and it can be handled in a way that will just help improve this town. And I think getting more people involved. Again, don't know what that magic formula is right now. I think we've all struggled with that.
I think this town, these people care. Everyone in town cares, and they really do want to be part of this. And I think after our first town manager, I think that people are very excited about having their voice heard.
Yes.
What we're looking for in our next iteration.
How to
I'll encourage them to fill out the survey, you know, people give
Well,
them.
I think the survey has to be everywhere. I think you need to drop the survey off at every coffee shop in town and at the grocery stores in town with a nice banner that says every liquor store in town. But I mean, I think it's hard, I mean, I'm just one person, so it's like, and I'll share it on Facebook, fine. But as far as getting it to everyone, I think it needs to be on a poster, on the window, everywhere you can put it so that people can grab the QR code.
All right.
It's on the town.
I mean,
I'll communicate that to.
It's on the town website, isn't
Yeah, but
it?
Your people.
But that could be
No,
hard
but
for
I
us
mean,
to go
but
to
it
the
is,
website.
right? It is on the town website?
It was, and
Ah.
you know.
No, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gone now?
Well, it may have been just for this meeting, but I'll
Right.
encourage them
I see.
to say, no. Oh, and, you know, before I forget, you know, in addition to this, I have a comment at the bottom of the page, my email address, if people want to send it directly to me, but preferably, there's a comment email address on the page. Anyone that wants to give any comment about anything during this process, that's where you put it, and then I'll be looking at that.
Is that open for?
And because, the reason why I suggest that over my email address, you're gonna get it in with everything else I'm doing. On that email address, it's only Simsbury. Okay?
Now, is that for not just residents, but for business owners and property
It's for
owners?
anybody, any stakeholder in the community has an opinion to give about this town. I mean, if you're a business owner but you don't live here, you're a business owner, you're paying taxes. You rely on the government for what you have to do to earn your living. Yeah, you should be given an opportunity to, I mean, you don't get the vote, but you get.
I'll pass it.
Yeah.
And I think, sir, with that being said, the communication is such a key tool in order for residents and business owners and those vested in this process. So in terms of, you basically have to blitz from today forward until the process closes, and you start with the town government, you start with boards and commissions, you start with selectmen, that's mandatory that they send things out, so that everyone, normally the town would send a mailing during election, but we'll be past that process by then when that happens. But I think in order to have residents and business owners to voice their opinion on this survey, it just has to be broadcasted to everywhere, including all the nonprofits, just to be able to send this out. And I think this is where you come in to do this, because you've heard what the residents have spoken to you about tonight in terms of communication, that you can never have enough communication. And if someone gets it, they'll forward it on, or if they've already filled it out, so be it. But I think that's the important thing. I think residents would rather hear, gee, I got 3 pieces of information, or heard about this 3 times, than not at all before that process closes, whichever target date when the process closes.
Good. No, I'll definitely pass that on in my conversation.
Once you find an advocate, we'll pass it on to the
I struggled with that 32 years myself. How do you get, and I'll tell you from this side, from a town manager point of view, it really frustrated me when I got into a room and people said, well, we never heard of this. And it's like, really? Because we tried. I mean, we really did give it an effort. We had a newsletter that went out every quarter. We created all kinds of ways of communicating. And, in the beginning with the phone calls, we used to make those emergency calls. We used that to communicate, to tell people about whatever was going on. At first, people were complaining, well, you get all these phone calls from you, but towards the end, they were perfectly happy with getting a phone call. For the same reason you're saying, I'd rather hear about it than not. I can hang up if I don't want to hear it.
I want to say maybe this will be for going forward, but a town manager who's really good at communication. I don't know if most town managers do newsletters. Maria did, at least I never got it.
It's rare.
Okay, I don't want to say it's a requirement, maybe it's a staffing issue, but that's one thing. But also maybe a town manager who's really into technology, who, I would be the first to say I don't even know their app, but maybe a Simsbury app, because anybody pretty much has a cell phone, and that could be a way to centralize meeting so that everybody's got on their phone. I mean, or whatever, thinking creatively about different ways to improve communication. Somebody's really into communication, maybe has a technology slant. I'm on the technology task force here in town, so I'm always thinking that way too.
We're done.
Okay, well, again, I appreciate it very much you all came out. And, the comments were excellent. So I will be referring to them. Again, encourage people to fill out the resume, and if you, fill out the survey. And if you haven't done so yourself, please do.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.